Good morning, students. So today we'll start with our revision class of consequences of disintegration of second chapter, that is the end of bipolarity. In the last class, we studied till what was the Soviet system, how did it disintegrate, and today we'll start with the consequences of disintegration. So easy consequences of disintegration in quick points will be the end of Cold War confrontation, power relation changed, US became the sole superpower, the notion of liberal democracy emerged as a best way to organize the life, emergence of many new independent countries, and the international system saw many new players with their own interest. Right? Now, in details, end of Cold War tensions between that ideological dispute actually between the socialist system and capitalist system was no more an issue, right? Next, power relations in world politics changed. Why? Because the end of Cold War left two only possibilities, that either the remaining superpower would dominate and create a unipolar world, or different countries or groups of countries can become an important player. Finally, US became the sole superpower, and there the notion of liberal democracy therefore emerged as the best way to organize the life. Emergence of many new independent countries, some of them especially the Baltics, the East European states, they wanted to join European Union and they wanted to become a part of NATO. Then Central Asian countries were another ones who wanted to take advantage of their geographical relation and to continue their ties with Russia. They also wanted to establish ties with West because of their geographical location, right? They were rich in oil and natural gas, if you remember, right? Then international systems saw many new players with their own interest, therefore. This brings me to the second topic, that is shock therapy. Shock therapy was a collapse of communism, the painful transition from authoritarian socialist system to a democratic capitalist system. The model of transition was followed in Russia foremost, okay? Then further into Central Asia and East Europe were influenced by the World Bank and IMF. So all this transition was referred to as shock therapy. It varied in intensity, but its direction features were similar. What were the features of capitalism basically? Since there was a transition of socialist system to a democratic capitalist system, so what were the features of that particular system? Private ownership to be the dominant pattern, privatization of state assets, private farming, capitalism in agriculture, and there was that it ruled out any alternate and third way other than the state-controlled socialism or capitalism. Now, good effects, that is a positive effects of shock therapy would be free trade regime. Okay, development was now envisaged through more trade. A free trade regime, foreign direct investment were the main engines of change. Okay, which also led to many breakup of the existing trade alliance among the countries of Soviet bloc, because each state from this bloc was now linked to the West. That is how the West started dominating all these parts. Okay, now the negative consequences of shock therapy: downfall of the economies, deterioration of the currency, which also remember what was that Russian currency? Ruble, if you remember, and the value of ruble declined. Okay, there was loss of industries, there was decline in the GDP, the social welfare destroyed, which led to the emergence of a mafia in these countries that started controlling many economic activities. Privatization led to other new disparities. Post-Soviet states, especially Russia, they had become rich and poor, which further aggravated the gap between the rich and the poor, bringing in inequality. Now, if we talk about the political system were having weak parliaments, okay, with relatively no opposition. There was no judicial culture, no independence of judiciary. right? So all these were the problems, effects, negative effects of shock therapy. Now the negative effects of shock therapy starts from the consequences, okay, and from private and from free trade regime till the dominance of the West were somehow accepted as the positive effects, okay. Now after this you see that there is revival of the Russian economy. When did Russian economy revive, students? It revived in 2000, 10 years after their independence. And why was the parliaments weak? Because the construction of democratic institution was not given the same attention as the priority and demands of the economic transformation, right? The constitution of these countries were drafted in a hurry. They had Russia, including the strongest executive president with widest possible powers, but that made the parliaments weak. In Central Asia, the presidents had great powers and several of them became very much authoritarian. Okay, you see the presidents of Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, they all appointed themselves to power first for 10 years and then extended it to another 10 years. Okay, and then you see the revival of Russian economy in 2000. 10 years after independence, and the reason for the revival was again the economy for export of natural resources like oil, natural gas, minerals. Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, then Russia, Turkmenistan, they all were major oil and gas producers. Other countries have gained because of oil pipelines which crossed their territories. So basic thing here was natural gas and oil. Okay, then we have the tensions and the conflicts. The tensions and the conflicts were there when most of the former Soviet republics, they were prone to conflicts, and many have had civil wars and insurgencies. You very well know the difference between the civil war and the insurgency as explained to you while the class when I was teaching, right? Okay, so just in a quick review where tensions and what kind of conflicts took place. So Russia witnessed secessionist movements between Chechnya and Dagestan. Then you have Tajikistan in Central Asia. Tajikistan witnessed a civil war which went on for 10 years till 2001. Then you have the Azerbaijan. What happened in Azerbaijan? The local Armenians, they wanted to secede Azerbaijan and they wanted to join Armenia. Okay? Who wanted to secede? The Armenians wanted to secede. Which place? Azerbaijan. And to join which place? Then that was Armenia. Okay, then you have the importance of Central Asian republics that started to becoming on heights. Why? Because it was the base for the hydrocarbon resources, oil companies, oil resources, and that is why the Central Asia became a zone of competition between the outside powers and the oil companies. The region was next to Russia, China, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and very close to West Asia. West Asia, that is your parts of Iraq, Iran, Jordan. Okay. Now all these areas, since they were important, therefore Central Asia became important for the major powers at that time, that is US, Russia and even China. Okay, then you have Eastern Europe, Czechoslovakia, that also faced split peacefully with two important halves, that is Zets and Slovaks, forming independent countries. Another severe conflict took place in the Balkan republics of Yugoslavia because it wanted to break apart with several provinces: Croatia, Slovenia, Bosnia, Herzegovina. Okay, declaring independence. Then ethnic Serbs in Yugoslavia, what happened? Then ethnic Serbs, they opposed this and a massacre of non-Serb Bosnians followed, and it ended with the NATO's intervention. Okay, how did that ended? That ended with a NATO intervention, and the bombing of Yugoslavia followed the inter-ethnic war. Okay, so you have major places here, that is Russia, Tajikistan, Azerbaijan, Central Asian republics, Czechoslovakia and the Balkan republics of Yugoslavia. Okay, which makes it six important places over here. Okay, now coming to the next topic, that is the last topic of this chapter, and that is your India and the post-communist countries. Now, India and the post-communist countries, what happened here was that in India and the post-communist countries, what happened here is we'll discuss about the relations between India and Russia. So very quickly, India maintained good relations with all the post-communist countries, especially Russia. Okay, I think E is missing here, that's anyway, it's fine. So Indo-Russian relations have a history of trust that is embedded in the history, that is there with common interest. Indian heroes are famous. The entertainment industry of India is a household name in Russia. Russia and India share a very important vision, and that is a multipolar world order. You know the difference between a unipolar world, bipolar world and a multipolar world order, right? How many agreements have been signed? More than 80 agreements have been signed between India and Russia as part of Indo-Russian Strategic Agreement of 2001, right? Now, how does India stands to benefit? It stands to benefit on issues like Kashmir, energy supplies, and how has Russia stands to benefit? It has stands to benefit because India is the second largest arms market for Russia. Indian military gets most of its hardware from Russia, and obviously Russia is important for India's nuclear energy plants. India seeks to increase its energy imports from Russia, from the republics of Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, apart from Russia, from republics of Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan. Since Russia is a known name, you'll remember that, but you also must remember Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan. And finally, Russia is important for India's nuclear energy plants. Okay? All right, students. So that is it for your syllabus of the upcoming test. Okay. Now we'll continue with the next chapter of your syllabus for the upcoming test, that is Challenges of Nation Building, chapter 1 of Indian politics, in the next class. Okay. Till then, you revise till here, study well, and if you have any problem, let me know. Okay, students, thank you and all the very best.